I heard that I was ugly. Came from a chick who wanna touch. I said my face bomb, abs tight, rack stuck up, shack height, jury.
What's up, everybody? Happy Wednesday. We are back with the bi-weekly dose of the free PD. It is a new name. It's the same show. It's the same fellas and the same energy. I'd like to welcome you to episode 18, but episode 1 of the Engaged Podcast. You see it in the background on Dot Screen. It's the Engaged Podcast. We're excited for this launch, for this rebrand, but we're going to do the same thing we always do. It's still the realest ad movement. We got some free PD. You know, we pulling off the Bulls of the 90s and the Lakers of the 2000s, get the 3P, because this show's about to be fire. We kicked it off with Dr. Beasley, Dr. Hemphill 2 weeks ago, and we got a dynamic guest today that you surely know by name. You know by energy, you know by reputation, and we're excited to have him on. But before we do that, we just want to kind of lay some groundwork on Engage, what it means, educators, networking, growing, guiding, enrichment. We are excited kind of what this means. For me, it's about, if I think about Nipsey Hussle, right? Everybody knows Nipsey Hussle. Nipsey Hussle never went mainstream. He wanted to make sure he put out a product that was not compromised. He made no concessions, that he made it for the people. And this is kind of what this is for us. This is us going out on our own, giving you product that's uncompromised and no concessions. So I'm excited about the show, excited about the rebrand. So Ball, man, it's been a good week for you. Got birthday celebration, the kids in the building. What's going on, brother? And how do you feel about the rebrand, the relaunch?
I'm doing great. Yeah, it has been a big week for me. Today was our first day with all 3 of our grades at the middle school level. We had 6th graders about 3 weeks ago, but we brought back our 7th and 8th graders today in hybrid. And so it's a lot of energy on campus. It's been great to see, great to have them. It's my youngest son's birthday, number 5 for my son, Nathaniel. So lots of energy, and we're bringing a brand new show, if you will. It's a new name, but the same old thing. I think that not the same old thing, but the same intensity. We're going to bring the same energy, but now we're going to be much more focused. We've seen an evolution in our product, and we've talked a lot about what it's like to be Black male educators, but we're taking it to the next level, getting a little bit more into that instructional leadership piece. So we're going to grow in that direction, and we're excited for everyone to join us.
Doc, man, what's up, man? I see the hoodie, man.
Hey, you know, we doing Black History 365 days. That's how we do it around here. So, man, it's been a good week, man. Like I said, I just got back from a little quick trip I made. We on spring break. I'm loving life. I got this mad energy for today. So it's all good. And like you said earlier, you know, with the Engage, I just think of it as that whole concept, iron sharpens iron. You know, as we are doing this work, we want to make sure that we uplift while we're also climbing. So that's what we doing with the Engage Podcast, really looking to build up the next level of educators to do great things for the Black and brown kids across this country. And like you said, Dave, you know, we trying to hit this 3-peat, this grand slam today. So we came first with Dr. Beasley in the Affinity Spaces in episode 16. Dr. Hemphill came hard with the 1-minute meeting in episode 17. Get your pad and your paper, because we about to come real hard. And to introduce our guest, like, I could talk about the numerous awards he has, his work as a turnaround principal. I could talk about the stages he has graced as a keynote speaker, as a consultant, the 9 books he's written, including the bestsellers, the AP's 50, the Aspiring Principals 50, also the much anticipated the Equity and Social Justice Education 50 that is dropping this May. But I want to start with a personal story about our guest before he comes on. It was spring 2019. I was at my Sigma Regional Conference in Omaha, Nebraska, and I ran into my frat brother, Janobu Williams, who was the vice principal at Newark High Tech. And I was in the interviewing phase of trying to find a job as a principal. By this point, I had went through like 4 or 5 interviews, some first round, some second round, just wasn't landing a job. And Janobu told me, he said, hey, you need to go watch this video by Principal Kafele. It's called Things to Consider for the Principal's Interview. So my drive back from Omaha to Kansas City, it was about a 3-hour drive. I listened to this YouTube video not once, but twice. And then 2 more times when I got back, because I had 2 more interviews lined up. And it was 2 things. I'm not gonna get into the details of all of it. There was 2 things I took away from this video. Was you got to know the school. You got to know the data, the culture, the vision. What is this school trying to do? And the other thing was lead them with a story. At the end of that interview, you got to lead them with a story to be remember, something to remember them by. I followed a lot of other advice from that video. The next 2 interviews I got was offered both positions. So basically, I'm not the person we got here today is not something that I just read in the book or I heard somebody tell a story about. I'm telling you how he personally changed the trajectory of my career off of a video, and I've been following him ever since. So we bring to you the man, the myth, the legend, the man that's always on fire, the one and only Principal Kafele. Welcome to the show, sir.
Great to be here, and I wasn't aware. Glad to hear that story.
So we're super excited to have you on here. Like I said, we have our audience that's set. We got some of your people that's joining us in today, but we want to just talk about the AP role and how important that concept is. And I went through some turmoil and things with my APs this year and a big shift in my leadership team. But just to start out, we want for you, because you do a lot of work with APs, to just define what is the role of an AP in your opinion?
Yeah, the extremely short definition is to assist the principal, and those lines can't get blurred, right? You're the principal's here and the AP is here, and you're there to assist. That's the very short definition. But the thing about it is there's so much more to it. And that's why I made this decision to immerse myself into being this assistant principal professional developer, because there's so much more to like that assist the principal. It means something. And that's where I come in as far as my working with the assistant principal.
So I know I'm gonna turn over to Bar, because Bar just hired a new AP. Mm-hmm. So Bar, talk about that how you are bringing them on board, because they just started in February, into the school year.
Yeah, so one of the things that I've really been intentional about is scheduling time during the week and throughout the week. Really, we started at the very beginning of the week, and we set time to go over our goals, what we're going to accomplish this week. She's doing basically her own professional development plan, setting her own goals. I shared mine, and one of the things I want us to do is make sure that our goals as a school site and as individuals, as educational leaders, align with what the district's vision is as well. And so that's what we've started doing. We're meeting the beginning of the week and kind of talking through those and helping shape those and seeing what we can do, action items throughout the week to make sure that we're addressing our goals. And so that's one of the things that I really want to learn today, Principal Kafele, is what can I continue to do to help grow her? Because this is her first year as an assistant principal. And, I've got the mentality that I'm training my replacement. So yeah. She's either going to take over for me or she's going to become her own building principal.
And see what you said, that's key. The mentality that you're training your own replacement. Because here's the thing, everybody doesn't have that mentality. Some of us in these positions will keep that person at a distance, keep that person at bay. So I need you to assist me toward my leadership, toward leading this school. But I'm not necessarily preparing you to take over this role, right? See, when one is comfortable in their own skin, and I'm comfortable within my own leadership, then one wants that assistant principal to become great, to become extraordinary, to become amazing. But therefore, what you said about sitting down with your AP on a daily basis to start the day, to end the day, to have that constant communication, that constant collaboration, that's how, on the one hand, that person grows. But on the other hand, that's how that person becomes a real asset to you and to your school, to the entire school community. So I look at the assistant principal as kind of this dual role of one being trained for one day becoming a leader, but being a partner at the same time. It's crucial. And it's what a beautiful thing when that professional relationship can evolve into a genuine friendship. That now I know you've got my back. I know I can trust you. I know I don't have to preface everything I say to you with, this is between us, right? I don't have to say that anymore. Now it's just when I talk to you, you understand this is us, because we have that kind of bond between us. It's critical.
So that bond is crucial. So I'm going to ask, what are one or two things? Because like I said, Ball has this person who started in February. I've been working with two substitute assistant principals this year and got my 2 permanent starting in July. At the start of that relationship, what are 1 or 2 things that principals can do to help forge that relationship? And then what are 1 or 2 things that APs can do to also, if they, are coming on board or already there, I think more importantly, already there, and the principal's coming in to a situation where they've already been the AP to kind of help forge that relationship?
It's actually going to start in that interview. See, when I'm interviewing you as a possible member of my team, as an assistant principal, I'm going to make that very clear. But simultaneously, I want to be able to gauge from the candidate that you understand that you understand your role, you understand how I want to utilize your talent. So therefore, once I make that decision, I know what I got. Right, because we were thorough with that. It's like, oftentimes, including just recently on my Saturday broadcast, I talked about the fact that I'm not looking for a portfolio. I don't need it. I've never looked at a portfolio in my life, right? And I was an administrator for 14 years. What I want to do, I just want to hear what you got to say, right? I want to have an honest conversation with you, and it's going beyond interview. It's a conversation, and through that conversation, I'm going to gauge if you're somebody that I want to live with, because that's what it is. We're in these buildings longer than we're in our homes. So I'll gauge in that interview if you're somebody I want to live with, over a long period of time, if this relationship lasts long. So that's how I'm going to look at it. But then the assistant principal, on the other hand, it's a give and take. It's a two-way street. So you're learning the same thing. So now you get into this position. I'm looking for you. I'm looking for your creativity. I'm looking for your initiative. I'm not necessarily looking for you to take initiative and not inform me that you're doing it, but I'm looking to see that you're somebody that's thinking, somebody that's envisioning, somebody that's projecting what this school needs. Not so much just what I need, but what this school needs. And then you're going to take the initiative to bring it to me. And let's talk about it and see if this is something that we can execute. So it's a two-way street.
So I want to ask about, what's that balance between instructional leadership and disciplinarian?
Oh man,
right? Can you talk to us about that balance right there?
On my Saturday Academy, I think I spent like 5 weeks, 5 hours. I got to try to give you the short answer, right? I say it. The bulk of my audiences are school administrators at whatever level, and I say to them all the time, I understand the need to have an assistant principal that's handling discipline, particularly in places where discipline is in fact an issue. I get that. However, the reason I jumped into this thing and decided that I was going to focus so much energy on the assistant principal is because for me, that's an antiquated model. Where we have relegated somebody on an administrative team, somebody that's making either $100,000 or close to it a year. And we said, we want you to discipline the students. We want you to read the disciplinary referrals. We want you to make decisions on what the punishment, the consequence will be, detention, suspension, whatever the case will be. That is so antiquated and outdated. And it's inherently racist in a whole lot of places. So here I'm saying, when our energy is focused on discipline, in a lot of cases, what we're doing, we're putting a Band-Aid on a bigger problem. Discipline is so micro. It's what it is. It's a micro issue, and it's happening within a macro. The macro is the climate and the culture of the building. So, frequently I'll take climate and culture and reduce them to these one-word definitions. I say the climate of the building is simply the mood of the building, the mood of the classroom. It's this thing that you feel when you walk in. It's like if those who are viewing us right now, there's a mood in place right now. And as they're viewing, they can feel it, right? When you walk into any space, there's a mood, but the question becomes, who's influencing the mood? Is it a situation where the mood is just kind of what it is and it's organic, or as leaders with our team, we have shaped this mood into what we want it to be, right? So that when youngster walks into the building, or even when staff walk into the building, this move, we've nurtured this thing, we've cultivated this thing, we've created this thing, and therefore that's what it is. So that when youngster walks into the building, and in that school where the behavior is undesirable, we have created a mood coupled with a culture, which I define as the lifestyle of the building, how we're living. I got rid of all that fluff in terms of these long-winded definitions and said it's the way we're living, the lifestyle of the building. So now if the youngster walks into this building that exhibits that undesirable behavior, we have created a culture in a school that is inconsistent and incompatible with that behavior. So we're using the culture to shape behavior, not a check mark on a board or a list on a wall that says rules and consequences. I say to folks all the time, rip those charts down. Right? Imagine a youngster coming to school on the first day from summer break, and the teachers at the secondary level, all 5 or 6 teachers, spend a period. So all day on going over the rules. This happens in schools, right? So we go over the rules and the consequences. What is the youngster supposed to think? And under those circumstances, that I can't wait to get back tomorrow for the same thing, right? I mean, what in that conversation is inspiring and empowering? So I'm saying instead, let's not talk about rules and consequences. Let's talk about norms and values and expectations so that we can begin to free up the assistant principal. Because to bring the question full circle, if I evaluate teachers, right? If I supervise teachers and I'm a full-time disciplinarian, then at what point am I an instructional leader for those teachers when I'm spending the bulk of my day disciplining young people? I'm not an instructional leader, because even if I slip into a classroom now and then, being an instructional leader, the pre-observation conference is significantly important. The post-observation conference is significantly important. So just because I slipped into a classroom and can state to people, oh, I get in the classrooms every day. Okay, fine, you get in the classrooms, but is that rooted in a conversation? Is that rooted in a post-conversation in terms of immediate feedback? Because if you get into a classroom, then I'm gonna ask the question, what are you looking at? What are you looking for? If you're in there, there's literally 1,000 different indicators plus in a classroom that the eyes can see. If you're going in there looking at them all, you are misusing valuable time. The pre-observation conference will dictate what I'm going in there to look at. So now going to the classroom, I'm just going to look at those things we discussed and mutually agreed that these are areas for growth. So let's now go in there and look at that. But again, if I'm a disciplinarian, I can't grow a teacher. So guess who loses? And I'm gonna shut up on this note. The youngster is the one that loses, because I don't have a leader that's helping a teacher to become amazing in a classroom.
Can I add on to that, Dave?
Yeah, go ahead, because I wanted to highlight something. Go ahead, Bob.
My bad.
I'm gonna hit my highlight of you, Dave.
I just wanted to kind of tie that into our last episode and how we can bring students into that component of establishing that culture, that lifestyle within the school building.
Yeah. See, let me say this to you. I don't see. I guess I was so non-traditional in what I did as a leader. I'm always outside of the box. My cliche was always, if you see me in the box, snatch me out. I don't want to be in it, right? So the bulk of the behaviors were coming from the young men. So I said, well, let me create something that focuses on the young men. So I created a young men's empowerment program. And so to go back, October 16, 1995. I go to the Million Man March, the first one in DC. I'm on fire now. So I said, how can I sustain this energy? Let me go back to the school. I'm a 5th grade teacher. Let me go back to the school and engage the entire school, males, even the ones I didn't teach, in a Million Man March replication. So from there, I built the program. And it culminated probably when I got to the high school level, where we put them. I was wearing a shirt and tie to school every day. I said, I want my boys to look like they're the principal of the school. So I convinced mom, look, I want your son to look like he's the principal, so that when people see him, they're not sure who the principal is, me or them. So mom bought into it. So now I said, I need other voices, not just mine. They'll get tired of mine. So I went into Newark and started recruiting and just bringing in hundreds of men into the building. So we focus on Monday. We miss a portion of the school with miss classes on Monday. We call it Power Monday. So on Monday, I got a grade level with me for 4 hours. I got guest speakers coming in who are not professional speakers, just men of all walks of life, from the most highly successful all the way to OG that did a 10-year bid, and everybody in between. I wanted them all in that building. So now we can talk to the young men, very structured conversations based on a framework that I created and a curriculum. And now we can have these structured conversations to talk to my young men, to help them to navigate the world being Black and brown young men. What does that mean? And how do I overcome whatever those challenges and obstacles that may come my way? So now we're looking at young men transform before our very eyes. Teachers are saying to me, like, what are y'all talking about in that cafeteria? Right? My women teach, because the men were with me, but the women teach, what is that you guys are discussing? Right? I said, did they tell you? They said they won't tell us. I said, that's because we told them to keep it in-house, so they're being compliant. But we're talking to them about being men, but we're being raw with it. Right? It's like we pulled off the gloves and we said, let's talk to them as if that's our sons. And we're able to pull it off. So that's that youngster piece. But while we're engaged in the young men's empowerment, somewhere else in the building, the young women's empowerment program is taking place. Right? So we got both genders and we're taking care of business. It's a powerful program.
So I was going to highlight the lifestyle piece, because I just thought that was powerful. But I'm going to circle something you just said. And because we always talk about the hashtag of this show is free PD. And I think I want to make sure that the school leaders, particularly folks, school leaders like me, Black men, that we caught something. You said that you brought in men from all walks of life, but there's two things that I must point out that you said. The first thing you said is a structured conversation. So I ain't just bringing people in there to just start talking to my kids because they got an agenda they want to do. And then you said you created a framework. And I want to highlight that, because when I was a principal, young, right, and I had boys, I was like, I just need to get some men in here. And I thought like that. I said, you know what, let me just get some men and just talk to my boys. I didn't really tell them what to talk about. I just said, talk to them. And that's dangerous, because then people start branching in their own things. And so your job as a leader, if I can offer something to the audience, your job as a school leader is, when you bring people in, you have to set the tone for what you want them to talk about. Create the framework, as you said, make it structured and say, this is what we're talking about today. So we're talking about academic excellence, leadership, and service. So whenever you talk about, I wanted to go into those frameworks, right? And I just thought that was powerful. So that was, again, some free PD for folks. Yeah. When you bring people in, make sure it's structured and make sure you have some form of framework that you have people to talk about.
Let me give you the short version of what the framework was. It's 5 strands, and I posed them as self-reflective questions. What does it look like to be a young man? Let me give it to you a second. What does it look like to be a young man in relationship to himself? So in other words, every youngster in the building, every youngster in your building is at point A when they walk in. Success will define as point B. And I gave success a definition. I said, success is the ability to live one's own life on one's own terms. I said, that's how we're going to define success here. So, and obviously we're talking about doing something that's legal, right? So living one's own life on one's own terms. You do what it is you conceptualize that this is how I want to live my life, right? The three of you, you would meet that definition of success because you're doing what you chose to do. You went to school for this, you studied for this, you tested for this, you're living your life on your terms, right? So I said to them, we want to help you to get from point A to point B. We'll spend 4 years doing it to the point where now we can cut the umbilical cord at graduation and you're ready to fly. Number 2, what does it look like to be a young man in relationship to the young lady that's sitting next to you in class? We know that there's competition in the world relative to pop culture, relative to society, relative to media, relative to music, in terms of what a woman is. In our case, what a Black woman, what a Latinx woman is, right? So we said, let's have those conversations so that he understands that she is a queen in the truest sense of the word, right? Even when he came to us and said, well, what about if she's disrespecting herself? Then we'll have that conversation as well. But at the end of the day, I want him to see her as the queen that she was born to be. Number 3, what does it look like to be a man, young man, in relationship to relationship to the father, the children that he may have one day? So in other words, his role as a father. Now, we knew that they all weren't going to become fathers, but if you do, what does that father-son relationship look like? Let's start talking about that now while they're sitting here in school. Number 4, what does it look like to be a man in relationship to his male peers, right? So when we talk about, you know, they see black what's the word I'm looking for? I'm trying to say black on black violence, but I'm trying to say a difference, as James Mtume would say, a black to black violence, right? So here they saw it, they could see it. Everybody sees it, but I want to change that. I'm saying that's not your enemy. So let's talk about how you resolve conflict with one another when it arises, if it arises. So what's it look like to be a man in relationship to his male peers? And then the last one, what does it look like to be a young man in relationship to his community? Are you an asset to your community, or are you a liability to your community? See, so now you spending the whole time you with us in that school, we're having this conversation, but it doesn't end there. When you become a senior, I'm holding you responsible for the freshman class. So when they come in as freshmen, you become the co-principal. We're teaching that. So now every top of the month, we coming together, my seniors and my freshmen, or my 8th graders and my 6th graders, or my 5th graders and say 3rd grade, when they feel that that's a grade level they're comfortable with talking to. Now we're going to have these conversations where I could sit down and watch, and now the seniors take over. Or we'll get on the school bus. I'll take about 25 seniors, just 25 random, and go to elementary and middle schools. And then I'll ask the principal, give me your boys. And now we'll spend a whole half day talking to them within the framework. See, so it was very structured in terms of how we went about doing that.
So,
Doc, real quick, I got to say something real quick. Go ahead. I need you to like and share this video. Make sure you use the hashtag FreePD. I just had to name that because y'all getting a heavy dose. We got the books out, but yeah, make sure you like and share this video. Use the hashtag FreePD. Doc, go ahead, brother.
I need you to go a step further. I need you to tag somebody in the comments. There's somebody out there that need this right now. So even if they don't watch it live, they need to go back and watch it later. Tag somebody in the comment, your friend, your colleague, your coworker, no matter, first year or 50th year, they need what they're getting, because Principal Kafele has put it on heavy today. So we appreciate you being here, sir. I want to kind of go back because there's that adage, and I know we talked about it, Dave had it in his intro a little bit ago, that Black men are worth more than just teaching PE and discipline. And that's one thing when I took over in my building as my APs, and I told my 2 APs who were in place when I got there, who were also up for the job that I got, that, the one thing I want to change the culture of this building is I need people, APs, that are instructional leaders who do discipline, not disciplinarians who help with instruction, because those things aren't the same, and that was a culture change for them. And, one of them decided to go elsewhere, which I'm like, hey, go find your bliss somewhere else. So, but the thing that you talked about, it, I want to go back and highlight, because like I said, we want to make sure we hit some of these key points and keep them up front. And that was paradigm shifting for me. And I'll put that in the comments of the show, was that we need to teach norms and values, not rules and consequences. Like for me, that was, as a leader of a building, that's something I'm definitely going to go back to my team with as we roll into next school year. How does that new year start? Are we teaching norms and values? Or are we teaching rules and consequences? If we're teaching rules and consequences, we're doing something wrong and we're highlighting the wrong thing. Because I feel like if we focus on the norms and values and focus on instruction, discipline's going to take care of itself, because a kid that's engaged is less likely to act out.
That's where I am. So, I say to educators all the time, I say, look, these schools were not built for us, the adults. They didn't have us in mind when they built these schools. They had children in mind when they built these schools. So therefore, it's their home, it's their house. So when you come into the school, what do I look like telling you what you cannot do, what you can and cannot do on the first day you get there? Now, I understand we need structure in the building. I get that. But I don't have to approach it as a rule. You know, that because now it starts replicating, say, the juvenile detention facility, for example. I don't want to use that language. I don't want to use any deficit speech, right? And that's including the language of at risk. I don't want to use that language. That's deficit speech that's rooted in deficit thinking, which creates a deficit culture that puts young people at a deficit. So we have to watch the language that we use with young people as well.
Can you talk a little bit about, you and Ball hit it on it, you know, his AP, and I believe it was episode 14 in the virtual assistant principal academy, which we'll get to in a minute and talk about that. But you talked about that daily meeting, and there were some crucial 4 things that need to happen during that daily meeting. Can you just give people a little bit of that?
Is that for me or is that for Ball?
That's for you, sir. I'm sorry. And then also it's for you, principal, because like also that daily meeting, and why is it important for administrators to plan daily and not weekly?
Okay, yeah. See, you know, I think about, you know, I'm kind of tying that into the teacher lesson plan, and it's the same thing. You know, it's that weekly model is somewhat antiquated because the lesson plan, if it's written on the weekend, it's outdated. Like if the first period class is at 8:30. That plan is obsolete by 8:45, if not earlier. And then we're going to use the same plan to get to Friday, right? So in terms of that assistant principal dialogue, it's daily because each day is different and each day presents its own unique challenges. So if the AP and I have a conversation on Monday and then we don't talk anymore until midweek, end of the week, whatever it is, there's a whole lot that's transpired since we had that conversation, and we need to have it on a regular basis. I mean, ideally, we'll have it twice, right? We'll have it to start the day, we'll have it to end the day, right? But if that's just not feasible for a given school for whatever the reason, then at least we're having the conversation. And it's not just a brainstorming conversation, but there's certain goals and objectives that we have for that school. There's certain strategic planning that we've engaged in for that school. So now we want to have that meeting to see where we are in that process, right? So that relationship with the AP is so methodical. As we're growing that school, as we're growing that staff. But when we're not talking, it has adverse implications for an entire building. When that team is not talking, whether it be 2 people or more, it's got to be talking. If that team is in conflict with one another, whether it be principal AP or a larger team, and there's conflict within that team, there are repercussions for that entire building. That team has to be one. And just as I said, in terms of the trust factor, that's got to stay in-house too. Even when there's conflict, that's got to stay in-house, because as soon as the staff realizes that there's conflict on the team, it can be exploited. And we see that, right? So it's critical. But those conversations, but always understanding the difference between being the AP and the principal. Because see, on the road, I meet more APs than I can count who will say to me, I love the presentation, Principal Kafele, but I'm in a situation where I can't do half of what you said because the principal and I are not on the same page, or they'll just go right out and condemn the principal, right? And I'm saying, what an unhealthy relationship that is that you have. And how do children win when you have that kind of conflict between the two of you? So it becomes incumbent upon the principal, first and foremost. You got to rectify that relationship. Now, if there's a way that you could have that AP replaced, then fine, we're having a different conversation. But if that AP is going to be there, then you have to find a way to correct that relationship, because again, it has adverse implications, perhaps for an entire building.
Man, that's it. So, Ball, you got the next one? Want me to take the next question?
Go ahead. You got it.
Okay. So I want to know how. I would say this. So unfortunately, one of the mistakes I made was when I jumped from teacher to principal. So not ever sitting in that AP seat. Mm-hmm. So I had to learn the first couple years that dynamic. And so that was important. But I want to ask this question. how can I build a teacher leadership team when I don't have an AP? So I've also been a principal with no AP, and I've just had my teacher leadership team. So how can I build a teacher leader team when I don't have an AP in my building?
Yeah, first and foremost, I'll tell you that it's definitely doable, because one of the things coming in for me as a new principal, a rookie principal back in the late 90s, I had a mindset that I had to be the smartest person in the building. Now, I don't mean that I literally sat here and thought I got to be the smartest person in the building, but it was reflected in my behavior. So I had to be the all-knowing. I had to be the smartest one in the building. I had to have my hands and feet in everything, right? So I thought. So then as I grew, with experience comes wisdom. So as I became wiser in the work, I came to the realization, not only must I not try to be the smartest person in the building, but I am not the smartest person in the building. I have talented people on this staff. I have brilliant people on this staff who can run circles around me intellectually in various different genres. So the question became, why am I not tapping into these brilliant people? Right. So then there are my teacher leaders. There is my circle of people that I can kind of pull from without them realizing ever that they're in the circle, right? But people that I can utilize their skills, their gifts. So let's talk about the master schedule for a second. I remember those summers of haggling over master schedules, hating the entire process, right? And then I figured out, wait a minute. I got some people in this building who are mathematically inclined that could do this thing. Obviously, I want the program to drive the schedule, but who can do this thing in a way that I can't do it. Who could resolve this problem probably overnight in a way that's taken me an entire summer. Why am I not tapping into this human capital that I have in this school? So now I'm building leaders by tapping into folks and using them. And then when I find out or discover or learn that I've got folks in the building who aspire to become school leaders, then why am I not using them? I don't have to pay them because they want to be in this position. It's just a matter, and that's in a unionized district. That's just a matter of tapping into folks who are hungry in the building and in turn making leaders out of them. And that's what I did. Some of them were counselors, some of them were teachers, various different positions, but they were certainly elevated as I needed them.
So we want to shout out everybody that's watching live right now, either Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. You got questions for Principal Kafele, some scenarios or whatever, please drop them in there. We're going to try to get as many as we can as possible. But I do want to jump to Miss Augustine had a question for you, Principal Kafele. Then anybody, any of the other co-hosts that want to chime in. For a new AP, how could you give advice on leveraging your time to be an instructional leader over always having to deal with discipline situations?
Yeah. See, that's definitely not something that you can do by yourself as an AP. You can't. There has to be collaboration with the principal, because within that conversation, you're talking about the fact that you're always using your people skills, right? Because you never want to offend your principal to the point that your principal feels threatened by your presence, right? Or you're overstepping your boundaries. You never want to do that. So you always want to make sure that in talking to the principal, it is non-threatening, right? Because ultimately, and the reason I say this so often is because ultimately, if you're not a career AP, when you're ready to make that transition into the principalship, you're going to need that principal to write that recommendation. And if you burn that bridge because you came at that principal incorrectly, then you may not have that recommendation, right? So you got to you got to maintain people skills in dealing with the principal. So with that said, you got to have that conversation with the principal, because that principal could very well be of a mindset, a mentality that the role of the assistant principal is discipline. See, when I was an assistant principal, I was a full-time disciplinarian. I was the teacher supply inventory clerk. I did cafeteria duty and bus duty. Instruction was not on the radar. Not because I didn't want to be that person. I wasn't allowed to be that person. So those were the four things that I did. but the superintendent knew my skill set because I was New Jersey State finalist for Teacher of the Year 2 years before. So he knew my skill set as an educator. So after that 1 year, he went on and made me the principal of that school. So I had no assistant principal experience because the things I had experience with were the things I would least need, right? So like I didn't know budgeting. I didn't know curriculum. I didn't know instructional leadership. I didn't do that. I suspended kids. That's what I did, right? I put them in detention, morning, lunch, and after school, right? That's what I did. I made sure they were on buses safely with their seatbelts buckled, right? That's what I did. And I had a black cart and I pushed it around the building with whiteout and copy paper and all that other stuff and delivered it to the classrooms, right? That's what I did. But they still made me the principal the next year, right? So I'm saying here, that principal I had, that's all he knew. So he thought he was utilizing me correctly. So I knew he wasn't. So I'm saying to the AP that just asked me the question, you could have a principal that doesn't understand that. So you may have to be the one that educates the principal, but you got to do it using your people skills. You can't come at no principal, right? Especially when it's your boss, right? So now you talk to the principal about your ideas of how I can be utilized differently, but how we can transform the climate and culture of the school. To that person, let me ask you this question. I know we can't dialogue in this platform, but I just want you to put this in your head. How does the day begin at your school? See, when you talk about changing a culture of a school, let me tell you what anchored my shift in culture. Two things that happened before the day started. Number one, if you're my student, you will not enter the building without having a handshake from me or me having a handshake from you. And if you're my student, I'm going to know your name, right? I don't care how many students in the building. I'm going to know your name. I'm going to call you by your name. I'm going to let you know I'm glad to see you. So I'm starting before they even walked in. I'm up in Jersey. It gets cold up here. So if it's 20 degrees outside, 10 degrees outside, I'll just bundle up. But I'm going outside and I'm going to greet you. This is not the time for email, right? I'm talking to that AP right now. This is not the time for me to read email. This is not the time for me to have parent conferences. So I had to train the parent. I do that at open house, parents. I can't be trapped in my office with you at 7 because I got to be outside shaking hands to prevent the need to have you in the school. So I got to be out there shaking hands. Now, my girls, they really don't want to shake. They will shake hands. They want to put their arm around my waist. So I turn to the side, held them back, right? It's out in the open. Everybody see it. It's all good, right? So now I'm building relationship, but also hear me, AP out there. I'm positioning myself to the point where my presence matters. See, as leader, either as AP or principal, you have to matter. When I say presence, this with your mouth closed, just your presence, it's got to matter. And if your presence doesn't matter, then you being outside shaking hands doesn't mean a thing. But if your presence matters to the point that even teenagers, 17, 18, are looking forward to seeing the leader, that changes the inside of the building. But then that's number one. Number two, the morning message. I know you brothers know sports. You show me a team. I don't care if we talking Pop Warner. Show me a team where the team shows up at the stadium, at the park, whatever, and all the way up to collegiate and professional level. Show me the team that shows up with the uniform, puts on the uniform, and then walks out onto the field to compete. Show me that team. That team doesn't exist. And if it does exist, there's an issue with the coach. Because once the uniform is on, now the head coach, not the assistant coach, the head coach has the final say. There will be no instruction in any school that I lead until that school has heard my message for the morning. And I don't mean like you guys have a good day, we're counting on you. I mean, I got some substance to say. So now I'll build in the time in my schedule, my master schedule, because I need some Kafele time, right? So now They do the morning announcements. That's on them. That's my student crew. They do that. They do the school mission, which must be done, I might add. The school vision, which must be recited, I might add, with all the students standing up at attention, I might add. That's a whole different conversation. But we're not going to do a school mission and the kids are sitting down. The school mission speaks to who we are. How are we going to sit down on the school mission? Or how am I going to walk around the school and ask you what's the mission and you talking about, I don't know. Right? Or the school vision. Where are we going? And then I walk around. What's the vision? Oh, I don't know. No, we ain't doing that. Everybody's got to know that. So we stand at attention and recite it. So the students do all that stuff. Now, microphone, one of the young people. And now we will have words from our leader, Principal Kafele. I might come on there with some Kirk Franklin or somebody first, some gospel, some R&B with a message, and I let that play. I say, y'all get on your feet and let's jam for a minute. So now I can hear the floors, because we up north, we buildings go high. Well, they do in St. Louis too, right? So now I hear them. Now once they now settle down, I got something to say. Man, I'm bringing the thunder, y'all. Y'all hear me? I'm bringing the lightning, right? So I'm gonna do that for about 3 to 5 minutes. Now we ready to win the Super Bowl, the NBA Finals, the World Series, the heavyweight championship. Because I brought some fire this morning, right? So see, the AP that asked the question, I don't have no discipline issues now, because we've laid a foundation. We set a tone for learning, for competing. Not with one another, but the competition out there. We ready, right? They fired up. And then tomorrow morning, 24 hours later, I'm getting ready to hit them with a new message. And I'm going to do that for 180 days. There will be no instruction until the leader has been heard.
Damn.
I
Come
just
on, man.
Can I speak to that real quick? I mean, that's so much. That is so much fire. So Principal Kafele, I actually heard a message. So last year was my first year as my building principal, and I heard your message about the morning announcements, and I'm like, come on, that's not gonna make a difference. Although I played sports growing up, I was a football coach, and did those things as a young person. But I tell you what, that has made a huge difference. I mean, my kids feel like they can come talk to me because they hear my voice on a daily basis. Right now, when we were being virtual, I did video announcements and left them with some words of wisdom, some encouragement, something inspirational. And I tell you, I live in my community, so I see the kids in the grocery store and things like that. They feel like they can come up to me because we have, establish that rapport. Like they know who I am. They know I'm bringing it. They know I'm here for them. And I just want to let you know, I appreciate that so much, because it made a difference in year one for me.
I appreciate you telling me that, because it works. It definitely works. Thank you.
Doc,
hey, real quick, I want to
go ahead, Doc, and then I'll go after you, man.
So I just want to go back to the question, because Principal Kafele talked about, if you don't have that principle, because that's a collaborative thing, you can't just go out there and say, I'm gonna do instruction and not do discipline if you don't have that principle working with you. But he made a good point. Learn how to coach up. We do always talk about coaching now, but we talk about on this show all the time in our PD. How do we coach up? Because even in our positions, how do we coach up the district leadership if they're not going in the direction we trying to take our school? So that's very important. And there's a book out there, Principal Kafele talks about it a lot. A lot of people that in education, even though it fits in our thing, How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Oh, man.
If you can get that book, there's some stuff in that book that's going to really help you when you're trying to coach up to your principal, to your assistant superintendent, to your superintendent, to your director, whoever it may be. So that's what I wanted to add in there, Dave.
So 2 things. The first thing was the part about being present. And let me just say this. This speaks to, as Principal Kafele said, the APs, right? And I want to specifically talk about the APs who may not look like the makeup of their students, because those would be the ones that sit back in the back, especially if you have a predominantly Black school and the AP is maybe white, but the principal's Black, right? That AP will kind of hide in the back and let that principal be the face. But you said be a presence, not by words, but be a presence. Be out there at the street, outside, at the door, whatever it is, and make sure that you're shaking hands. I thought that was powerful for APs to understand. And for principals, that you gotta put your APs in that position. So while you on the street, and I'm talking to myself now because I'm on the street, my APs got to be with me on the street. So we on the street right now, shaking hands. I'm not giving lesson plan feedback. I'm not checking emails, as you said. I'm not making parent phone calls. I'm at the street. So that whole leadership team needs to be at the street. And I just thought that was absolutely powerful. Because I think too many times they sit back in the back and just wait on that principal. And the last thing real quick was the mic drop at the end. I said that because no instruction starts till they hear my voice. Yeah. I don't even want to go to sleep tonight. I just want to go sit in my school and wait till my kids come back. Because tomorrow, that needs to happen. Straight up. Like, nobody does nothing until I speak. That's right? And it's not an ego thing. No. It's just that as the leader, you got to hear my voice and I got to have a message. And I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. I mean, you think
and that is key. Go ahead, Principal.
Yeah. No, I was just saying, think about just any team, particularly on the professional, collegiate, high school level, and they just walk out and start playing. But yet at the school, the principal may not have that voice. Got to have that voice, right? So it's just absolutely critical before we get started. And see, going back to that word culture, it's building a culture of anticipation where the leader matters to the extent that the young people are looking forward to hearing those words. It's a beautiful thing now in 2021 when them former students from back in the 90s, the 2000s, they hit me up on social media and they still talking about that. Right. When these tragic events happen in the street, for example, in the world, for example, such as George Floyd, 8 minutes, 46 seconds, Breonna Taylor, etc. Right. See, the way I led when those tragedies happen, the students knew because of the culture of the building and understanding this leader, the next day we'll be in the gym. Right. We're going to be face to face on that one. And we're going to have a family discussion on what happened. So it was an amazing thing when these tragedies occur that several students will hit me up on social media and say things like, I know we would be in the gym tomorrow, Principal Kafele. Right. Or even say things like, Principal Kafele, like they were young then. Now they're adults with their own families. Kafele, Mr. Kafele, you were putting your career on the line for us. We didn't understand that. I'm like, yeah, you're always supposed to be in math, right? Language arts. And we in the gym talking about racism, talking about social justice issues with my staff present, right? I mean, these were not necessarily things that people would see. Now the world has shifted and people are very comfortable with being outspoken. But see, this was the way I led back in them days when people weren't talking about social justice education, right? So because we're talking now late 90s throughout the 2000s up until I left in 2011, and this was just my norm, right? It was all I knew because I'm rooted in African American history. So it was just a natural progression that we're going to talk about these issues, whether it be as a school, whether it be just me and my guys, whatever the case may be. But it became a culture where they expected it from me. And see, that's when you know things are working, because now there's expectation there's anticipation that we're going to do X, Y, and Z because this is the culture that we're in.
Man, I can't believe this hour done flew by already that quick. So we definitely, had a lot more we want to discuss, but we want to respect your time, Principal Pele. So the last thing I would like for you to talk about, and just to kind of remind the people, this is the Engage podcast, formerly known as the AOS podcast. And we've been doing this now since June. The last 3 episodes have been heavy hitters. Dr. Beatley, Dr. Hemphill, and now Principal Kafele. So every 2 weeks, we hear Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 5 p.m. Central Standard Time, offering free PD, giving you tools that you can take back and use tomorrow in your building, no matter if you're a teacher, instructor, leader, or a principal. So make sure you tune in every 2 weeks to check us out. But Principal, can you just wrap up today's show talking a little bit about your virtual AP Academy? That's, I believe, like in week 47 now, 48, somewhere around there. If you could talk a little bit about that and give the people information on where they can get tuned in to that piece, and then leave us, with your closing thoughts. And then after he wraps it up, the show host will wrap it up. We'll start with you, Dave Ball, and then I'll take us out. So, Principal Kafele.
Yeah, that I wrote a blog about a year ago called "The Assistant Principalship: The Most Misunderstood and Underutilized Position in Education." And of the 50 some odd blogs I'd written over the years, that was the one that went viral. So I said, well, if that blog post went viral, it resonated with a lot of people, a zillion comments, all that kind of stuff. I said, let me turn this into a book, and hence the Assistant Principal 50 right here. So then I said, man, the book's outselling. And this was my 11th book. And it outsold every book that I've ever written. So I said, okay, this assistant principal thing is resonating. I need to get on these virtual platforms, Facebook Live, Twitter Live, YouTube Live, and so forth, and talk to assistant principals every Saturday. So it was meant to be 18 weeks in the midst of a pandemic. We're all home. So let me just come on and talk for about 30 minutes. Well, I'm not good with 30 minutes. So it became an hour and change, right? So then after the 18 weeks was up, and I'm like, man, I got so much more I want to say to these folks, and the audience has grown exponentially. Let me keep it going. Let me just go to 55 weeks. So now we're in week 47. A lot of those broadcasts have been 2 hours just as of late. The February ones all were, because it was dealing with Black History Month and social justice and all that, January 6th, all that kind of stuff. So, but I'm gonna keep it going beyond the 55, but I'm gonna infuse the equity and social justice 50 into it when that book comes out in May. So what it is, those of you out there in administration, not just the APs, but even principals, because it's giving you insight on how to utilize your assistant principal, superintendents who could be watching. It's giving you insight on what should be happening in that building between that principal and that assistant principal. And then those aspiring folks, right? Join me every Saturday morning at 11 o'clock Eastern. Again, 11 o'clock Eastern. Refresh your computer. Nothing to sign up for, nothing to register for. Just go to my Facebook page at Principal Kafele. Go to my Twitter page at Principal Kafele, one word. Go to my YouTube channel at Virtual AP Leadership Academy and subscribe to it while you're there. Or go to my Facebook page, Virtual AP Leadership Academy, and like and follow that while you're there. So you got all 4 platforms. I'm live on there every Saturday morning at 11. And we're just talking about the AP. We talked about interviewing for the principalship for the past 2 weeks. And this week, I think I'm going to talk about the virtual interview, because a lot of people get tripped up with that. So, and then we get back to the content from the book. So that's what it is. Join me at 11 Eastern. In fact, join me at 10:55 Eastern, because I do shout outs for 5 minutes. And then we get rocking at 11 o'clock.
I told y'all, man, that the hashtag was for real. I tried to tell folks. Hashtag free PD. Listen, when we first launched this was not the direction, but as Doc said, like, things evolve, and Ball said it. Like, we formed, we found our niche, and we sticking with it, right? And that's why we went to the Engaged podcast, educators networking, growing, and guiding enrichment. Hashtag free PD. And so this was another example of free PD. And so I'm appreciative. I know as a principal, I was sitting here thinking, like, these are things I need to get better at. This is things I need to do. And so this ain't just for you all. This is for us too. So even if y'all don't get it, best believe we coming over here and getting it for ourselves. But we hope that you're getting it. We hope that you like and share the video. And so I close by this. My shirt said it's best. Black women are perfect. And I just want to celebrate Black women, because it is Women's History Month. And I have a Black mother and a Black sister and a Black daughter and a soon-to-be Black soulmate and life partner as soon as I find her. But I'm single, in case anybody wants to know. But thank you again for coming out here. I appreciate it. That's all I got today. Hashtag free PD. I'm done.
Appreciate you.
Oh, the way to finish it up, Dave. All right. So I just have one closing thought. As always, I'm very appreciative to be part of this family. We appreciate everyone that tunes in on a bi-weekly basis. Again, like, share, subscribe to our YouTube and all of those things. But one of the big takeaways for me, no matter what your role is, make sure your presence matters. Whether you are consider yourself a school leader or not, if you have a presence anywhere, make sure that your presence matters. And that's my closing thought. Appreciate you, Dr. Kafele, Brother Kafele, Principal Kafele, for joining us today.
Appreciate you back. Thank you.
First and foremost, thank you so much, Principal Kafele, for coming on. Like I said, when we first launched this show back in June, you was definitely one of the people we were like, man, we can get Principal Kafele on. We done moved to another realm. So we appreciate you coming on and gracing us with your presence. I feel like we done moved into the big leagues now. Couple of things. I have just a couple of things on my closing. First, I want to shout out to my team. Like I said, I've been dealing with some stuff, but I want to shout out my co-host David, our producer Uncle Ray, and Dr. Wilson, who checked in on me over the last couple of weeks when I was dealing with some stuff. Appreciate the love. Like I said, we all about making sure people get their roses while they still here. So I appreciate that. And then I want to tell people, like I said in the beginning, when I introduced Principal Kafele, like the work that he's doing, it works. Like I said, I went and watched his video, what things to consider for the principal's interview, and landed 2 offers. One is the job I'm sitting in right now that has truly, changed the trajectory of my career, to the point where when I left that interview, when I got the job that following fall, I talked to 3 of my teachers who were on the interview panel when I interviewed, and I was the first of 4 people that interviewed for the position. And they said, well, Dr. Smith, after you got done, we asked, do we got to interview the other 3 people? And all that came from listening to Principal Kafele and following his advice. So this is what I'm going to do, because like I said, he truly helped me get the job I have. So for the first people to hit me up on Twitter at Dr. VS, I got 3 copies of the Aspiring Principals 50. I have 3 copies of the Aspiring Assistant Principals 50 and 3 copies of the Principals 50. The first people to hit me up on Twitter for those, I'm going to send them your way. So hit me up. I'm going to get those books to you. Principal Kafele, thank you so much for coming on. We truly appreciate your time. So
3 of you.
And like I said, if you want the books, hit me up on Twitter at Dr. V Smith, and I'll get you those books. That's all we got tonight. We catch you on 2 weeks with some more free PD. We out.
We out.
Peace.
Go Mob.